добро да гледате Клик Плюс, јас сум Боријан Јовановски. Со оглед на ситуацијата во Украина и ова издание на Клик Плюс го посветуваме на тоа што се случува во Украина и кој е можниот развој на ова војна која ја започна Путин. Во ова издание на Клик Плюс прв мој гостин е Кира Рудик. Таа е парламентарец во Украинската Рада и со неа ќе разговарам за повеќе теми кои се поврзани со оваа руска инвазија на Украина. Потоа, во вториот дел на емисијата, мој гостин ќе биде блогерот Вангел Башевски, Барни, кој во последно време посвети серија на текстови на случувањата во Украина. Но за се по кусата пауза. Останете со нас. Како што најавив на почетокот, мој гостин во ова издание на Клик Плюс е Кира Рудик. Таа е пратеник во Украинската Рада и со неа зборував за повеќе работи кои се поврзани со почетокот на оваа руска инвазија на Украина, како и со мал историјат околу тоа што се случуваше пред ова и зошто Русија ја чувствува Украина како закана за нејзината безбедност. Разговорот со господјата Рудик го водев во понеделникот по Плането. Погледнете го. Madam Kira Rudik, welcome to my program. And let's start with the situation right now in Ukraine. Russian army issued a deadline demanding Mariupol's defenders lay down their arms in exchange for safe passage out of the city. Ukrainian army said that there is no question to surrender. So do you believe that you can defend Mariupol, having in mind that the Russian army is all around the city?
The situation in Mariupol is definitely hard. It's definitely complicated. That's true. However, there is no trust to Russian forces, and so there is no surrender. I want to remind you that for the last 7 days, we have been asking Russia to let out the humanitarian convoy, let out women and children who are starving there in the siege city. And for each day, the Russians would say yes. The Russians would say, yes, we will allow people to flee. And for every single day, when the humanitarian convoys will start getting out, the Russian forces will fire their arms at them. So they will shoot the innocent women and children. And this is why there is no agreement with Russia. This is why there is no there is no surrender. Because first of all, we are ready to fight and we will be fighting them. And second, there is no way that Russia keeps their promise. And there is no force that will make them keep their promise.
What about Kiev? What's the situation in Kiev look like? When we look at on the maps, it looks like the Russian army is going to surrender Kiev soon. Could you avoid the occupation of the capital city?
Well, there are three variants of what's going to happen. The first one is the ground attack, and Russians have already tried to do that. That didn't work. They were only got to the outskirts of the city, and we have fought them back. The second variant is the siege of the city. And for that, we are also ready because we have enough storage of food and supplies and everything. And the third variant is the one that we cannot get ready to, is Russia is shelling the city and destroying it from the air. And this is what is happening right now. They just throwing missiles at us with us having no ability to protect ourselves. This is what is happening.
You're in Kiev right now. What's the daily life? What's the life looks like in Kiev? Do you have a regular delivery of the various products necessary to survive? Electricity, water?
Yeah, so we do have water, we have electricity, and we have enough food. Like about 10% of the food stores are open right now. And honestly, it is enough to have like with no luxury, but enough for you to survive. The drugstores are open, today there was even a small cafe open, and I was so happy to go there and buy myself like a small cake. So the city is living. There are block posts, there are armed people everywhere. We are creating a Kiev fortress that we are going to defend. But the life, all in all, is normal aside of the missiles that are coming and the destruction that is done, aside of the broken roads and many, many people leaving the city. But the ones who are staying to fight, we are doing okay.
Madam Rudik, what do you expect from the ongoing negotiations? We know that there was several rounds of negotiations. What's the obstacle to get some results out of it?
The main obstacle is Putin not keeping his word. Like, what would happen if we make peace and tomorrow he will attack again? And this is what we see happening all the time. This is what we have seen in 8 years when he was fighting us on the east. Like, who is the guarantor and what are the guarantees that Putin will not attack again tomorrow? I don't see these guarantees right now. And this is why there is no peaceful deals with him. Because the only thing that Putin is capable of is destruction. And he was very clear, same way as Hitler was very clear on his attempt to destroy and delete Jewish people from the world. Putin was very blunt as well. He said he denies Ukraine and Ukrainians the right to exist.
Your president, Volodymyr Zelensky, yesterday asked for negotiations to start in Jerusalem. Does it mean that Ankara failed in their attempts to be mediator in this crisis? What's happened that your president asked for Jerusalem as a place to hold the new round of the negotiations?
I think the place of negotiation does not mean that much. Again, the guarantors mean a lot. So we see that the NATO countries, along with Turkey, along with Israel, along with Baltic countries, along with many countries in the world, could be the guarantors. And if that happens, then the negotiations can occur, then the peace deal can be made. But right now, I don't see a huge line of countries or country leaders saying, oh, we want to guarantee that Putin would not attack again. I don't see that. And this is why all the, where it would take place is useless.
Putin is asking for the neutrality of Ukraine. Are you ready to withdraw from your aspiration to join NATO, which is written in your constitution?
So in 2014, when Putin first attacked Donetsk and Luhansk, we did have a neutral status. So I don't believe that it had anything to do with anything. It's just like a matter for him, a reason, not a way to stop the war. So right now we have it written in our constitution, and I do not believe that, again, writing something else will change what is Putin doing and the war that he started. I just don't believe this, and there is no way to prove me wrong. Because what he said was not that I will withdraw my troops if Ukraine breaks up her aim to join NATO. But he just said, I want this to happen. And also he said, I want to take over Ukraine. So this is, I believe, are his intentions. And I do not believe that they are related one to another.
However, do you think that we could avoid the war if you have accepted let's say, or declared neutrality before war started, let's say, in the beginning of this year?
Again, in 2014, Ukraine had neutral status, and it was not written in Ukraine's constitution that we want to join NATO. And Putin still took the Crimea, and he still attacked Luhansk and Donetsk. So what is different now? Why do you think that us having the neutral status would have prevented him from attack?
But your president, however, said that he's ready now to accept neutrality.
It's not up to him. It is up to Ukrainian parliament that represents Ukrainian people. And there needs to be constitutional majorities of 300 votes out of 400 to vote for these changes.
So when it's up to your party, you will disagree with this, or you will not approve.
No, we are not going to vote for that. And I do believe that there will be no 300 votes in the Ukrainian parliament. Because again, imagine that we have done that. Imagine that we have voted for this. And next day Putin attacks again. What happens then?
So it means that you would accept neutrality, but if there is a guarantee that Putin will not attack again.
No, I want to see the guarantees first, and then we will start thinking what we can do. Right now, I don't see any guarantee. That's why we are not making any move. Our only guarantee is right now that we will continue fighting.
And what are the relevant guarantee for you from which side? I mean, NATO or what? Or Chinese?
No, it's NATO countries. It's Israel. It's Turkey. It's Baltic countries. It's maybe additional players here and there, but it could be Arabic countries. But it's like it needs to be written on the paper and ratified by all these countries that if he attacks again, there will be a full-scale war, and that it will not be concern or condemnation. That it will be like real security guarantees. Because you know why we're asking for it? Because in 1994, Ukraine gave up its third in the world nuclear arsenal for the for the guarantees from Russia, United States, United Kingdom on that we will give up our nuclear arsenal, and then we get the security guarantees of our sovereignty and integrity. And so here we are. And now we are asking to act on this memorandum, and we are told, yeah, not really. Thank you so much for giving up your nuclear status for the peace in the whole world. But NATO is not going to fight for you. NATO is not going to give you a no-fly zone. NATO is not giving you the support. And we are saying, but you promised that, you guaranteed that. They say, it was in 1994. So right now, I want it to be written down, ratified, and executed along like large alliance, anti-Putin alliance, because right now I don't see any other way. I do not see. The world is just watching us being killed. So why should we stop fighting?
Yeah. So let me resume. First, you want a guarantee, and then to discuss about neutrality.
No, I want the guarantee, and then we'll be discussing like what we can give up, and if there should be a neutrality. You know, the guarantees itself, they cannot. Once the guarantees will be in, they will all in all is a matter for Putin to step down. And how can he ask for us not to join NATO if the guarantees will be from NATO countries as well? So it's a chicken and egg situation.
How do you understand the Russian feelings that they feel, the arguments that they feel threatened because of the movement of the NATO toward Russian borders?
What does Russia has to do with like what's happening in Ukraine, a sovereign land? Like, well, explain to me. Like, what does they have to do? We are not NATO member, and we can have our choice to join NATO at some point, but we are not NATO member. And even if we were, like, what does have Russia to do with the other sovereign and free country? So this is another question to the leaders of the world. Do we want to live in the world where one country can tell another, like, do this or don't that, or I will invade you or not?
Have you tried to resolve some of the main open question with Moscow since 2014? There was any attempt for talks and to do some constructive discussion?
Yeah, there was a constructive discussion, which means like first and foremost, the ceasefire. So there needs to be a ceasefire so we can start talking since 2014. And you know what happened? Since 2014, we didn't have a ceasefire. It's been 15,000 Ukrainian citizens, my people, killed defending the borders, defending the Donetsk, Luhansk region, like being at war. And the whole world was watching and saying, maybe it will resolve itself. It did not. The tyrant became even more angry, even more bloodlusty. Mm-hmm. And he never did a ceasefire.
Yeah. What about the territorial integrity? Because there are demands of the Russian side in the negotiation process to recognize the independence of the newly created Republic Lugansk and Donbass. Are you ready to accept this kind of demand?
No. No, not at all. So, again, this is a question. Can one country invade another country, take its territory, create a separate republic, then invade further and demand for us to accept that? Like, if this is the new security like that the world wants to live in, then I have like very bad ideas for the Poland and Baltic countries, because Putin promised to invade there next. So no, we are not ready to do that. These are our territories, Ukrainian territories. We have our people there, and we will never accept that.
So what's a possible solution for Lugansk and Donetsk, having in mind that Kiev don't have control over those territories since 2014?
Yes, but we still there have our people. These are Ukrainian people there.
So what are the possible solutions?
Well, we want our territory returned. So the possible solutions is Russia removes its troops from Ukraine and Russia collapses. This is what the world is working on with the sanctions, with the embargoes, with the moratories, to create Russia a new North Korea that will disassemble at some point the same way the Soviet Union did. And this is the thing that we are fighting for, to make sure that we are getting rid of the neighbor that always wants to destroy us, to make sure that we are getting rid of the person who said that he wants us not to exist. This is the only way that I see. There are other ways. They will be halfway, and he will be attacking again and again. And I want to ask you, like in the history of the last 30 years, have you seen any single country where Russia would put its troops and that would take them back? And I can tell you there was no such country. The only way, so they did this in Kazakhstan, in Georgia, in Belarus, and now in Ukraine. This is what they are doing. And the only way to get rid of Russian army is to destroy it, to kill the people. This is the only way, unfortunately, because Russia is not taking its troops back. Even if there is an agreement, even if there is a peace treaty, they just don't do it.
Listening to the very tough position of Putin and what you are talking about, the negotiations and the talks between both sides, there are almost no room for optimism that those negotiations could bring some solution. So what's the way out? What's next?
Well, so basically you're saying there is a country that attacked another country, tried to take some territories. We are defending, we are fighting back, but we need right now to get into some compromise. Well, here is the compromise. They will need to take out their troops. Otherwise, we will kill all of them, and we will continue fighting. Mm-hmm. And the whole world will be either watching or be supporting us, because Putin will not stop at us. He will be going on to other countries next, as he was doing before. And the next question is, what's going to happen? We are saying it's either NATO countries are giving us the jets, the necessary equipment so we can fight Russia back, or there will be a very large Russian-controlled country in the middle of Europe, which I do not believe anybody needs, or Russia will collapse because of the sanctions. And this is what we are hoping for, that Russia will collapse.
What's the way for NATO to help you, for example, to provide you jets? How they can do it and in the same time to avoid the direct conflict between NATO and Russia, which could provoke the nuclear war?
Well, I can tell you that what's happening now is provoking nuclear war because Putin is bombarding the nuclear plants in Ukraine. You know the name of Chernobyl. So the Chernobyl plant is disconnected from the power grid and its cooling systems are not working. And we are very close to the next explosion. And Putin is bombarding the plant in Zaporizhia, which is the largest nuclear plant in Europe. And this is much closer to the nuclear disaster than Putin pressing the button. So the way that NATO can provide us with jets, it can rent it to us, it can sell it to us. There are many ways. But the issue is that NATO is living in the illusion that Putin will stop, that there is a way to avoid the war. There is no way. It's already there. It's already started. The risks are here. He is fighting. He will not stop. We have been telling this for 8 years. And now we are saying this. And it's like 100 years ago at the Second World War when the Allies were too late into coming into the story. This is happening right now. Everybody's hoping that it will go away. It will not.
Madam Rudik, allow me one bit the personal question. Are you afraid for your life? I mean, what is going to happen if Russian army enter and occupy Kiev? What's the destiny for the political elite in Ukraine?
Well, we were told that we will specifically be destroyed, eliminated, killed, whatever, because this is Russia's plan. Well, I hope today we'll get to serve my motherland and fight as hard as possible to protect it.
You are permanently asking for no-fly zone. NATO is, they refuse to allow, to take such a decision in order to avoid the direct conflict with Russia. What do you expect from the NATO summit, which will take place in the end of this week?
So us asking for a no-fly zone and NATO said no does not mean that we stopped needing it. Doesn't. So the missiles are still going onto my homes, onto the homes of peaceful people of Ukraine. So we hope that they will renegotiate the decision and figure out the way to make us stronger so we can fight Russia back, especially in the air. And I do believe that there is a solution to that. And I do believe that there are ways to do it. Look, Putin does not care about any rules. And NATO made up some rules which are important only to him. The important things are that we are able to stop the war, to stop the pain right now. And not saying, okay, we have like so much paperwork and it's done so properly.
Do you think that Ukraine is a kind of collateral damage of the NATO and Russia political disagreement during the last 10, 15 years?
No, I believe that Putin has this idea of rebuilding the Russian Empire or USSR or whatever. And he had this plan, no matter if there is NATO or no NATO. He's just going according to this plan. And Ukraine, unfortunately, is in this plan. He is trying to rebuild back what is already gone, what is already dead. And we don't want to be a part of it. This is why I think the war happening.
And at the end, something about the history of the relations between Russia and Ukraine. You lost independence twice. Once in the 17th century, correct me if I'm wrong, and second time during the Soviet era with Lenin. Having in mind this historical framework, what's the solution between Ukraine and Russia for the sustainable and permanent peace and stability?
Well, look, Ukraine is a sovereign country. We are a separate country. We're an independent country. Russia says there is no Ukraine. We think of Ukraine as a part of us. And this is there is no solution in between. These are the opposite views on the world, where one view is that he just denies that we exist. He denies us the right to exist. And this is why I'm saying the end of this war is Russia to collapse. Otherwise, there will be always this attempt to conquer us, to take us different ways. And this is not what we will allow. We will be always fighting that. Because we are building the country of the future. We are moving to the future, to the EU, to the digital economy. And he is trying to resurrect something that is already done, something that is only in his mind, something that like only tyrants can want to rebuild empire.
Тоа беше интервјуто со Кира Рудик, пратеник во украинската Рада.